Well, I'm a firm believer in meditation to clear your mind, to
Mm.
focus. Okay. Without focus, you're not going to be able to write at your best. And that's what your writing deserves, your book deserves, your audience deserves is your best.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Authors on Mission podcast. So, picture this. You're deep in the Amazon rainforest, following an ancient map that your dying father pressed into your hands, searching for a lost civilization of warrior women who stand 14 feet tall and possess strength that could crush a man's skull like an eggshell. And now imagine that entire epic adventure, complete with pirate crews, political coups, and biological warfare, told as one continuous flowing poem that never breaks its rhythm. Well, on today's episode of Authors on Mission, we're joined by Peter Gunn, a literary revolutionary who's created something the publishing world is never seen before, and that is LLP, Linked Lyrical Poetry. It's a very unique format. It's super exciting, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, in addition to some of his amazing music writing, because as we know, writing music is very similar to writing books. So I'm excited for a really fun conversation. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate you letting me be here.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Of course, it's going to be a really fun conversation, a very unique one too. And listeners, we're in for a treat because we're going to be playing a little bit of music on this podcast today. But before we get into that, let's touch on the writing aspect of it all. Can you give us a little background here on LLP?
Well, I would say, when I was looking for a new way to write, there's a book I had read about T.S. Eliot, The Poets and Poetry. And he said that poetry has to be in such relationship to the speech of its time that the listener or reader can emphatically say, yes, that is how I should talk if I could talk in poetry. And I realized that those are the reasons why, shall we say, epics don't resonate with today's kids, the Gen Alpha generation, Gen Z generation, etc., because they don't understand it's not written in a way they can understand it. So same thing with Shakespeare. So that's why it's so hard. So I needed to reinvent poetry in order to uh, let them understand it easier for them, and enroll the new generation into poetry and creative writing as a whole.
Right. Well, really cool stuff. And you're absolutely right. I mean, with today's generation of readers, we need to stay with the times and give them what they're looking for, which is something more short, engaging, and exciting. That's clearly what you created here with the Amazons. So, really cool stuff. I'm wondering if we want to chat a little bit about the Amazons in particular. How did you develop this, for example? I mean, it's really exciting that it's a very complex narrative, but you also had to maintain poetic flow while writing it. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what that process is like.
Well, everybody starts with an outline. All the writers start with an outline, and you have to be willing to take detours, especially with LLP. I often use a visualization of thinking about it like a normal writer would be a bricklayer, and he'd be laying bricks on a wall, and it'd be very mundane and everything repeat, and there's rules and regulations for it. But with LLP, it's like taking a natural stone wall. So every piece of stone is a different shape, and you have to intentionally place it into the place it's going to go. And you have to look at every paragraph and approach it with that in mind when you're writing LLP. So it's a lot more time consuming, really is. Writers often, you deal with writer's block, or sometimes you have to throw out several pages, and that hurts even more with LLP because it took so much longer to write.
Right. And I'm sure it requires a lot of patience as well to
Yes,
get all in
yes.
there.
But that being said, you also have this really incredible characters too. I mean, this guy Jack, as everyone is aware, is our protagonist, and then he has an Amazon half sister. So it's just really cool that
Mhm.
you've created these people and really immersed them into this world. I'm wondering, was that inspired by anything in particular? How did you come up with such an interesting idea?
Well, I have a young daughter, and when she was born, I wanted to enroll her into my love of epic poems, But then you walk into any bookstore and you're going to see them there, any library, they're always going to be there. But why would a young girl want to read that? What is in it for her? Does she even understand the story, or would she want to understand the story? So I felt it was necessary to bring the feminine into it. It's about time. And not only bring the feminine, but show that there's a synergy when the feminine and the masculine work together hand in hand, become much more powerful.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's really cool to know that it's also inspired by your daughter too, right? So
Yeah.
it's always something that different authors come onto the show and they mention that they're inspired by their daughter, their family members. It's a great way to drive a story forward, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, great stuff. So if anybody's interested in learning a little bit more about LLP and also about the Amazons in particular, you can head on to Amazon. It's right there for you. We're also going to put links in the description box of this podcast today. But we have so many other amazing things to talk about that you are involved in here, Peter. I think it's really cool to know. I mean, you also write music. And before we got on this podcast today, you mentioned that you were working on a new project. I believe you might have called it The Loop. Was that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, if you ever noticed a pattern in people that have mental health issues or societal issues, let's just say that, because I'm sure we could all think of the young lady that keeps repeating patterns in, shall we say, her choices of boyfriends.
Mhm.
Okay, and from an outsider's point of view, it's obvious, hey, she shouldn't have done that, but it's not always obvious to the person it's happening to. So the loop is to make people aware of what they're doing, the repeating patterns, and to help overcome them in the end. And that's why we wrote it.
Right. Yeah, okay. So would you mind playing it for us so we can get a little taste?
Yeah, I told myself never again. But here I am. agent called it me. Locked the door, then lost the key. I say I'm better, maybe I am. But when I fall like sand. Would I even know who I could be without the ache that comforts me? Go back again.
It clearly has a very deep meaning behind it. I'm wondering maybe you could walk me through some of the lyrics or the beat or something.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say we're a Christian band because we're not. We are not. Okay, we will swear in their songs. Okay, but they're very preachy, and I hate that. I detest it. So I refuse to be preachy about it. So I write the song from a standpoint of just talking about it or telling a story about it, not accusing the person of it. And I think it's important to bring it out because there's so many people in there with repeating patterns in their lives they don't understand, or they don't necessarily see it, like maybe try to quit cigarettes, and they keep going over and then they quit, go cold turkey, and then they go back again and back again and back again. Like I said before, like young ladies that have a dubious choice of boyfriends, okay, over and over and over in life. It's just to help wake them up to what they're doing, and how they're actually destroying their lives.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, I like the way that you're doing this then though. It's a story. It's not meant to be preachy. It's just
Yeah, I think when you look back at Christian rock,
Mhm.
and I think that's their downfall, is no one wants to be preached at, and I refuse to do it. That's why it's not so popular, because as soon as you hit the play button, you almost automatically feel like you're being judged, even if you like the song. So I do not want to ever bring that into the music that I write, at ever.
Understood. Right. Yeah, because it's more so about enjoying the music, enjoying the words behind it, and
Yes.
and the theme overall, right? So I get
Mhm.
that exactly. So really cool stuff. So now I'm wondering, you're amazing with writing music, amazing with writing these LLP lyrics in your books. I wonder if you can talk a little about the overlap there because it is very interesting to think about writing music, writing books. I guess my question would be then, can you tell us a bit about the process of music writing and do they influence each other?
Of course. I mean, when you take your favorite song and look at the lyrics, start reading the lyrics. Is it not a poem? Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and vice versa. So of course they go hand in hand. The only thing there's slight differences is, instead of adding an exclamation mark, I might have the singer scream. So, it's just a different way of expressing yourself. But they go hand in hand. They are in my view, in my viewpoint, basically the same.
Understood. Right. Yeah, exactly. And they really do go back and forth. And that's how I'm assuming that for you, when you're writing your prose, it definitely strengthens your skills when you're writing for the music too. I feel like it might just be
Yes,
adapted.
definitely. Oh yeah. By integrating LLP into my music writing, it has made it explode. It really has. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, really cool. And that just goes to show, because you've created so many, amazing songs that you shared with me, and also the books too. So it must be very rewarding. I'm wondering, have you experienced a particular moment where we've experienced positive feedback from either the writing or the books, and that really just goes to show the true impact of what you're doing here?
Well, I still work a 9 to 5 job, so they inadvertently found out about my webpage and my songs, and then I walked into work one day, and over the loudspeaker, playing everywhere, were my songs. Yes.
That's hilarious. I
Yeah.
love you said inadvertently at first, and I'm like, there's something behind that. So how did that come to be? They just found you online one day.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, positive feedback though?
Yes. Yes. They played it over, and I'm just starting to get sick of some of them.
That's so funny. Well, hey, to
Yeah.
all the listeners out there today, that's one benefit of being in the creative industry, because even if you do work another job, it can overlap like that. And I'm sure gain some audience with, your coworkers there too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Right. Well, let's dive a little bit into the writing process itself, because we are a podcast for authors. I'm wondering if you would like to, walk us through your typical writing day. You mentioned a little bit about the outlining process of the LLP format, for example, but what else do you usually do to kind of get in the headspace for writing, and what works best for you when you dive into it?
Well, I'm a firm believer in meditation to clear your mind, to
Mm.
focus. Okay. Because if without focus, you're not going to be able to write at your best. And that's what, you know, uh, your writing deserves, your book deserves, your audience deserves is your best. So without that, then, you'd rather just go out for a walk and do something else. Yeah. Until you can get your head clear. If there's a lot going on in your life, start looking into meditation, be able to put it to the side and not think about anything for at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I like that. And there's actually a lot of proven studies about how meditation, having a clear headspace does improve your creative flow. So you're
Hmm.
exactly on par there. And yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested in that practice, I'm sure, there's YouTube videos out there to teach you how to meditate. I'm wondering, you probably play some music in the background too, knowing that you're such a musician. Is that correct? I guess correctly.
Actually, I do it completely in silence.
Oh,
Yeah, no
okay.
distractions. Yeah,
I guess that would make sense, because you have an empty mind. You can't be listening along to
yeah.
music. Makes sense. So yeah, I mean, all that being said, then I'm wondering, what about influences? Do you have any specific role models that you look up to, or that have influenced your approach to literary and musical works?
Well, I was always like a fan of the '80s hair metal bands. Okay, and like Whitesnake, things like that. And some of their songs, there again, if you look at the lyrics and don't listen to the music, it's a poem. So it inspired me a lot back in those days, and that's why I actually joined a band. We decided to get together and call ourselves the Angelics, and we're starting to produce our first album right now. A lot of people said it's like Skid Row as a social conscience, so I'll take that as a compliment.
Okay, yeah, yeah. And I always like to ask that sort of question, because it not only connects you to listeners, because of course we all know about those hair metal bands, but it goes to show that you can draw inspiration from anywhere. So yeah, really great stuff. However, I do have another question about the book itself. In the messages we exchanged before today's podcast, you mentioned that you actually fired your editors when you were writing the Amazons. So it's very interesting, because I'm always talking to my podcast guests, and we talk about the importance of editing and getting a second opinion. Why fire your editors? What happened there?
Well, okay, let's do this. Let's picture Da Vinci painting the Mona Lisa for the first time. Okay,
Mm.
and then you walk up behind him and tell him, "No, you should have put that brushstroke there." Okay, that's what an editor would be doing in poetry. Okay, it's a brushstroke. Your poem, your that word is a brushstroke. So I actually got in an argument with an editor about the word unpursed. Now, to say the word pursed, people know what that is. It is an actual word, but the word unpursed is not an actual word. But I used it in order to keep the rhyme scheme going and the story going. And he got upset with it, and we got a verbal argument over it. And I just had to let him go. And there was time after time after time with editors until I found one that finally worked with me and was able to actually help me get through the story and make it work. Yeah.
Wow,
It's a
that's
part of the entrepreneurial process, finding people that you can work with, really.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to know, did you explain to the editor that it's LLP, that it has to be in verse,
Oh,
that it
yes, yes. But, you got to think, these people, some of them are very left-brained. So they're great at math, very detail-oriented, but they're not creative. So, there's black and white for them. There's no gray area. Okay, so just let it go and I'll find someone else. That's usually your best course of action. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a very important piece of advice then for all of our listeners today. You need to make sure that you're working with the right person, that their vision is
Yes.
aligned with
Mhm.
yours. As an editor myself, I mean, I've edited poetry before, and I know the importance of, okay, specific words sometimes just need to stay. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the service industry. The client is always right. If you want to stick with that word, stick with it. So very, very interesting story there. But yeah, life lesson learned. So Peter, and then you've written the book, you have a ton of music out there. What's next for you? I feel like this is not the end of the writing journey. Of course, do you have any other books in mind that are in development in the inspiration bin? What's next?
Well, I'm currently working on a graphic novel as well. It's based on ancient Gnostic texts and Gospels, like the Pistis Sophia, and it's basically going to help show people what's going on behind the scenes in today's world without them having to necessarily pick up a large book without pictures. It will help people or your Joe Sixpack to understand what's going on in a easier way.
That's really exciting. Okay, so you've been working on it then. Do you have a certain timeline for when it might be out for everyone to check out?
Well, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to realize, and especially if you expand out, that you can't do everything on your own. And while I probably will be done with about 25% of the artwork for the book, I have people hired out to help me. Due to the current state in the world right now, are on hold. So until they can get back on to work at it, it's on hold right now.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that does happen. I get it. So to everybody listening today, I guess the best thing we could do is stay connected with you and get ready for updates for when it does get back on track. What is the
Yes,
best
definitely check my website.
what website that'd be for everyone to check out?
It'll be www.petergunn.net. And you could also go to Amazon Kindle, Peter Gunn, the Amazons, to check out the book.
Great, great. And as I mentioned before, we're going to put the link to that in the description box of this podcast today. So you can go ahead and click on over everybody and really immerse yourself in the world of Peter Gunn, because he is not only a writer, he's a musician and a entrepreneurial spirit. So I'm wondering now, as we begin to wrap up a little bit today, what other pieces of writing advice might you have to offer the audience today? What's something that you wish you knew before you got started that has really helped along the way?
Learn how to frame the work. So it was that old joke, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time. But you need to look at it with that viewpoint is people look at the entire book and they think it's a mountain that they can't climb, but all they need to do is take one bite of that elephant, you know? Approach it day by day, take baby steps if you need to, and eventually you'll get better, but don't give up. That's the whole thing. Don't give up. Keep pushing through.
And keep pushing through. That's all you can do, right?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, thank you for that. And I think that's a piece of advice for everyone to, try yourself. You don't get started if you don't just open up that Word document and start typing. It's never going to be completed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, amazing. How about reading your work out loud as you write? I mean, being that you really do immerse yourself in the auditory world of music writing, do you ever read your work out loud in the writing process?
I have an internal voice that I use for both poetry and music, and it will let me know when I'm off. But I do have, like I said, on my team, I have a my producer slash director. She's also one of the most talented voice actresses I've ever met. Her name is Andrea Giordani. And
Okay.
sometimes I'll have her voice it for me, and then I'll be able to hear where it's off just by hearing it from somebody else. It helps a lot.
Understood. Yeah, yeah. I mean, a little bit of a random question that I just asked there, but it makes a lot of sense to see that, you do need to look back at your work, you need to see how it sounds. So
Mhm.
that's some perfect stuff. Well, yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on today. It really has been a pleasure. You have a ton of amazing material there, and I think our listeners really enjoyed hearing your music too. So, guys, if you want to learn more, click on those links and get immersed in Peter's world. Peter, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Danielle. It's a pleasure.
Of course. And to all of our listeners, again, just, Peter's story really just shows that your unique voice isn't a limitation to overcome. It's your competitive advantage. So you can combine poetry, epic fantasy, music with literature, whatever unexpected fusion your creativity demands. The world needs only what you can create. So, he's a perfect example of that LLP method there. It's great. So until next time, everybody, keep pushing boundaries, keep breaking the rules, keep writing the stories that only you can tell. This has been Authors on Mission, where we discover the rebels, the revolutionaries, and visionaries who refuse to accept that it's just how it's done. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have an amazing day.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.